Hi and welcome to Pixability TV episode 28. We're going to talk today about YouTube and e-commerce. That's a frequently requested topic that many people asked us to cover, and we are going to explain today how you can increase your online sales using YouTube. I'm here today with Michael Benson.
Yes, indeed.
Michael, welcome.
Good to be here.
First time on the show.
Yep, very excited.
Yeah, great. Michael is one of our video marketing experts, and he's working a lot with our e-commerce oriented customers, so he's definitely the best guy here to tell you all the secrets of being successful with YouTube and e-commerce. So let's have a look at the agenda for today. We are going to talk to you first a little bit about a few facts around e-commerce and YouTube. Then we're going to go into 5 critical success factors for how to get the most out of YouTube for e-commerce, having the right content strategy, using YouTube Ads and SEO, optimizing your channel for more conversions, using video on your site, and measuring your success with analytics. So that's going to be the program for today. Couple housekeeping notes. As always, you can ask questions during the show if you're watching this live, and you can do this in 2 ways. You can ask on Twitter, send your tweets to @Pixability, #PixTV28, or send us an email to webinar@pixability.com, and we'll answer your questions at the end of the show.
Yes, indeed, and some, if not many of you, will be at South by Southwest here coming up this next week. We will have a few folks, our CEO Bettina Hine, as well as Rob Ciampa, our EVP of Sales and Marketing. They're going to be doing a panel at South by Southwest entitled Myth-Busting Engineering Viral Video. Definitely going to be a lot of fun. Should be very interesting. So if you're going to be in South by there Sunday, March 10th, 12:30 to 1:30, make sure that's on your calendar.
Yeah. Everything you always wanted to know about viral videos, but are afraid to ask or something like that. Okay, before we get started, just a couple of quick things about who we are for those of you who don't know us yet. Pixability is a video marketing, YouTube marketing specialist. We have software and services that help you get the most out of YouTube for e-commerce, but also for general brand marketing. And we offer advertising solutions for YouTube to drive traffic, and also content marketing solutions. And we provide these services for a lot of big brands, e-commerce companies, and all kinds of other organizations. So let's dig right into the topic of today, e-commerce and YouTube. And first we want to talk about a few stats around this topic. So very often when you talk to people about e-commerce and what kind of platforms they're using to drive traffic, they are not necessarily talking much about YouTube. It's still relatively new to think about YouTube and e-commerce together. But this is changing very rapidly, and the main reason for that is, of course, that YouTube is by far the dominant video platform in the market. It has a huge market share of all the public platforms. You see here the comparison, the big bubble here is YouTube, and everybody else is significantly smaller. YouTube reaches about 154 US viewers every month, and according to Comscore, that's actually about the same size as Facebook in the US. That's also something that a lot of people don't necessarily know. Very interesting about YouTube is it has by far the widest reach in terms of mobile devices like smartphones and tablets, gaming consoles, connected TVs. On all these devices you can actually watch YouTube videos. So if you want to be present with your video content literally everywhere, then YouTube is by far the best way to go, simply because it covers, you know, everything from a smartphone to an Xbox, PlayStation, and the latest connected TVs. Also, one important thing, especially if you have a younger target demographic, is that as opposed to primetime TV and a lot of other old media, you are really reaching a very young target audience on YouTube. When you buy a TV commercial in primetime, about 76% of people are over 50 years old. On YouTube, it's really the opposite. You're reaching mostly younger people, and that's, of course, very important for a lot of industries. YouTube e-commerce is actually growing very quickly. This is a recent survey here amongst US online retailers, and you see that YouTube actually tripled 2011 to 2012 in how many retailers said they were already using it actively, and it continues to grow at a similar pace. So it's really catching up to Facebook and Twitter as a way to drive traffic, and you will see today in this presentation why it is a particularly interesting platform, an interesting medium to drive qualified traffic to your e-commerce site. So given all of this, it's not surprising that especially the big guys are already doing this and are already on YouTube when it comes to e-commerce. We recently did a study with our own proprietary software, and we found that out of the top 100 brands in the world, taken together, these companies actually publish more than 10,000 videos every month on YouTube. And this, of course, includes a lot of big retailers like IKEA, Gap, H&M, and so on. So all these big companies are really investing very significantly into YouTube marketing, and there's, of course, a good reason for that, and we'll discuss the most successful ways to participate in this trend today. So again, one thing I forgot to mention here. Of course, the question is always, are people actually buying something? And the answer is yes. More and more studies really show that. One recent survey found out that 52% of consumers say they are watching product videos makes them more confident in their online purchase decisions. So that's great, and you hear this from a lot of companies, including Zappos and others, that they see a lot higher conversion rates for products that have videos at the point of purchase online. 4 in 10 shoppers actually say that they got influenced to visit a real-world brick-and-mortar store based on videos that they saw online. So it really cuts into the real world. And an even more amazing statistic is that 1 in 3 apparel purchases are already influenced by YouTube, according to Compete. So YouTube is clearly in many sectors already moving product, and of course that's very promising for e-commerce retailers. So again, we're going to talk about 5 critical success factors today, and we're going to dig right into the first one, and that's having the right content strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I'll say about having the right content strategy, and the question that I probably get asked most, the folks that are new to this, ultimately, where can I start? Where can I add the most value to my existing customers, or moving forward, the customers that I really want to attract to my site? Now, there are a number of different ways that you can approach this, but one of the ways that we really like to think about this is picture your content marketing strategy specific to video as though that folks within this funnel. What kind of content can you position within the different parts within your buying cycle that can really make the most sense for where you want to reach these folks? So when you're picturing the funnel, when you're talking about the top of the funnel, getting in front of folks for the first time, maybe they're not aware of you, maybe you're looking to drive more traffic to the site, gain some awareness. You definitely want to get out there, make sure that you have some content that's directed toward getting your brand out there, explaining who you are, what it is that you do, what you're all about, and what your expertise is. And then as you move through the funnel, as you go down, it's very important that you're building in other types of content to match that as well. So building in some product demos and reviews, some how-tos, and perhaps some testimonials from folks that have bought from you before. And then, of course, one other element that we're seeing more and more is that as folks become better informed purchasers, as those purchases that they make are better quality and they have a better idea of exactly what they should buy before they actually make that purchase, you can see a lot of benefits on the back end too. You're going to have better customer satisfaction after the purchase is done. You can help out with some customer service things on the tail end of that. And then also, if you have a better informed set of customers, hopefully that'll help decrease the amount of returns that you see as well and minimize that.
I think it's really important to point this out very strongly that because a lot of people still, when they hear video marketing, think about 30-second commercials and hey, let's put all of this stuff on YouTube and maybe people will hopefully click through. And that's really not how it works. You really need to have this portfolio of content for different places in your marketing funnel. So that's definitely the right way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you've done some brainstorming about what types of content you'd like to create, maybe you have some great ideas already because of what you're hearing from customers. At that point, I think it's very important to set that aside for a moment and go out there and do some research of what's actually on YouTube today. What's out there, what's working, what your competitors are doing. So we here at Pixability have a very neat tool called the Video Radar tool, and that allows us to analyze an entire industry on YouTube, focusing in on a specific subset of products or a topic or an industry. So there's a lot of great data that we're able to pull with this tool. We can see actually, and the example that you see here is within the beauty industry. So we see the top 50 channels in beauty here today. You can see some things like where these viewers are coming from. And as you can see, they are pretty heavily skewed towards mobile traffic. Folks viewing a lot of this type of content on their mobile device, maybe to and from work or school, etc. And believe it or not, it does skew fairly young female as well, this particular vertical. Certainly no surprise there. But again, these are the types of things that you want to look out for. Who's out there? Who's viewing this stuff? And ultimately, who do I want to reach as well? So in doing some research, maybe you don't necessarily have access to this type of data through proprietary systems and necessarily the software that we have here. Well, you can still do some really neat research out on YouTube, start looking at some trends. This is actually another piece of data that we can pull from our Video Radar tool. And what you see here is the distribution of views for the videos that are out there within that beauty industry topic space. By how long they are, right? So you can see that there are quite a bit of views in the 1 to 3 minute, but certainly there's a lot of content out there that drives a ton of views that's a little bit more long form, goes into it in a little bit more depth. So these are the things that you want to watch out for. Yeah, maybe it makes sense to have 30 seconds or a minute on a brief product just to get that video out there, but certainly more in depth pieces can work very well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people always think that YouTube videos have to be very short because people supposedly have such a short attention span. But we find out in industry after industry is that people actually like long form content. If it's really well made, if it really helps them understand what the product is or how to use the product especially, that's really the way to go. So you again should think about portfolios of videos of different lengths.
Right. Some other things to watch out for as well. When you're out there looking at videos, what are the themes that keep coming back? What are they titled? What are the descriptions like? What are the terms and phrases that people are using very often? And another thing to think about too is that when you're looking at what works for a lot of folks, what your competitors are doing perhaps that are garnering a lot of views, you may find an opportunity. Maybe there isn't any type of content that your customers are asking about. Maybe that's an opportunity that you can jump on. Sometimes it's not always immediately obvious because you do want to do what seems to be working today, but it is important to experiment. It is important to look out for things that you think should be there that aren't, and that might be a really great thing to jump on. So I want to also give one quick example, and we were looking at this the other day. There is a fantastic website called Digital Rev, and they specialize specifically on photography equipment, DSLRs, lenses, etc. And their YouTube channel specifically is fantastic. They've got a ton of content up there, things that range from hints and really helpful tips and tricks and some really cool things that you can do with DSLRs and some new techniques that are out there, but also a lot of great product reviews, great ideas like low to mid-end cameras that you'd be able to take advantage of for folks that are maybe getting into it. A lot of folks have this interest, and as you can see, an amazing amount of viewership that they have on the channel. They've got 120 million views, over 500,000 subscribers. Just to put that into perspective a little bit, the #1 watched program of all time, I believe, is the 2012 Super Bowl, which had 111 million views total for just that 2-4 hour span there. So that's the type of the volume that we're looking at here. If you really do it right, you can hit a lot of people, get in front of a lot of eyeballs.
Right, and I mean, this particular channel and website, that's actually a small e-commerce retailer out of Hong Kong, working with a very low budget, and they just make amazing content. They show up on every search that you do for any camera type, and they just have great content for people who are interested in this.
Yeah, so it can really, really work for you when you're hitting it out of the park like these guys are. So something to think about.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to the second topic. Once you have produced all this fantastic content, this whole portfolio of videos for different parts of the marketing funnel and different user needs and so on, you of course want to let people know about this, and you want to bring traffic to your channel. And there are basically two ways how you can do this. One is YouTube advertising and the other is SEO. And we're going to talk mostly about YouTube advertising because that's a very little understood way of driving traffic. And it's really a great opportunity because it's not overutilized yet like search marketing and other forms of online marketing. So when people think about advertising in the context of video, they very often still have this traditional TV ad model in their minds. So they think of 30-second commercials, and you show a lot of ads to a lot of people, maximize reach and frequency, and then hope for the best, and maybe people will show up in your store and buy something. And YouTube video advertising works very differently. You can do a much better job at targeting the right people with the right content. So forget about this old TV ad model where you buy demographic clusters or something like that. That's really not what is effective on YouTube. You really need to go into more detail. A lot of e-commerce people actually think also about search marketing metaphors, about the traditional search marketing model, and that kind of is all about getting in front of customers when they're ready to buy, when they're just searching for a particular product name and want to press a buy button. You want to be in front of them, and of course this gets more and more competitive on Google search. When you search, for instance, for cameras here, almost everything is already an ad, and Google is making it more and more transparent about who is the cheapest provider of these products. So you just have to hope that nobody outbids you and undercuts you in price. It's a very, very competitive environment, and even if you have built a nice brand, you're probably losing out on this level already against the cheaper guys. So YouTube also helps you going beyond that and really building your brand, establishing a relationship with your customers, and we'll look at how this is done and what the role of YouTube ads are in this context. So the way to think about it is really you have these four areas here. In the center is really your YouTube channel. Think of this as kind of a little cable TV station that you own and control. You can publish all this great video content here and really build a relationship with people. They will probably subscribe to your channel if they really like what you're doing. And YouTube ads are really an effective way to bring content, to bring traffic, into your YouTube channel, to make people aware of your content and really let them view your content on a first level, and then encourage them to engage more deeply with your channel. You can also direct traffic, by the way, from YouTube ads directly to your website. Very often a mix of both actually makes the most sense, because sometimes you want people to convert more directly. Sometimes it's more about relationship building. And finally, in that context, social sharing is very important. People love to share great video content that they find useful. And they also really love video content in social streams, on Facebook streams and on Twitter streams and so on, because it's a very attractive form of content. So this also brings back traffic to your YouTube channel if you do that right. So let's look at how YouTube advertising actually works on a very simplified level here. What you need to do is you need to select one or several of your YouTube videos that you want to use as ads. These can actually be of any length, so you're not restricted to traditional TV commercial formats in 30 seconds or 15 seconds or something like that. Very often we actually see that longer ads work better on YouTube because they engage people much more than just your traditional TV commercial. Then you basically select placements, you decide where to put ads, bring it in front of your target audience on YouTube. And finally, there's a call to action. People can directly click through to your website or to your YouTube channel for more information. The nice thing about YouTube ads is you get a lot of value for money because you get charged by engaged video view. You get only charged if people watch a certain portion of your video, not just per click or per impression. So there's no CPM model that you have to apply here necessarily. That's very effective because you really only pay for people who care about your content. It's also extremely flexible because you can really find different cost per view ranges for almost any kind of different target audience, for different ad formats and so on. So it really is possible to find an ad solution that fits pretty much any budget and any marketing goal. And it's really a great medium for these reasons. So let's look quickly at what ad formats YouTube currently has to offer. Most of you are certainly familiar with pre-roll ads on YouTube. And what YouTube does differently than many other places is it actually offers skippable pre-rolls that people can skip after the first 5 seconds. And that's kind of in Google's philosophy that ads should be relevant content. So if people don't like your ad for whatever reason, they're not interested in your product or something like that, they can skip it and you don't pay for these exposures. So that's a great advantage. On average, typically about 15 to 25% of people actually watch the full ad, and then you actually pay, and people can click through to your website by clicking on the ad or on the companion banner next to the ad. So it's a very effective way to drive traffic and really prepare people to your message. Another format is in-search ads. That's actually fairly traditional keyword advertising. As you probably know, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, so it's definitely valuable to be here when people search for your type of product. And you can buy these keywords very much like you would do that in Google Ads, and you will appear on top of the search result, and you only pay if people actually watch the underlying videos on your channel. And in-display ads work in a very similar manner. You can place these little yellow ads right next to content that you find desirable, or show it to particular demographic segments or interest clusters and so on of people who might be interested in your product. And even though that's a very unintrusive ad format, it is very effective, and we have really found that this very often gives you the best conversion rates, because people really come from context where they already are interested in a particular type of content, and then click through, watch your video, and end up on your website, hopefully buying something. So definitely very attractive ad format. Now, there would be a lot of details here that we could say about ads. We actually had recently a whole episode of Pixability TV just about YouTube advertising. If you go to our website, you'll find it under Pixability TV. That really explains it in full detail. Just a few short tips for how to run successful YouTube campaign. Use a mix of different ad formats and different video types. So mix shorter form videos with longer ones. Use all these formats that we just discussed. This typically works best. Don't always optimize for direct website clicks. We actually have found that very often conversion results tend to be better when people first engage with your YouTube channel and watch a couple of videos and really understand what you are actually selling. That really helps a lot. Make sure you target your ads really well, so don't go out and just buy every US person 18 to 49. That's a complete waste. You can do much better on YouTube, really reach your target audience. And finally, test, and test. Again, it's a very dynamic market environment, so very much like on Google advertising, you constantly want to verify if you have the right kind of bids, if you are reaching your right target audience, and so on. It's a very dynamic environment, and that's also one of the services that we offer at Pixability for our clients, to manage their campaigns really from start to end on a consistent basis, constantly optimizing these results, and that typically gives you the best results downstream. Now, a quick remark about SEO. That's also, by the way, a topic that we have produced a full episode of Pixability TV about, and have a lot of other marketing material on our site that really explains this in detail. But again, YouTube is the second largest search engine, bigger than Bing, Yahoo, and all these other guys taken together. So you definitely want to be present there. And the thing to understand is that there's quite some competition on YouTube already, and if you don't do YouTube SEO yet, you should really start. And we are sometimes amazed at how badly people treat YouTube as an SEO channel. For instance, I just the other day searched for iPhone cases, and you would expect, brands like Otter, Zag, and all these guys to show up on these search results, but it turned out the first full page of results were teenage girls showing off their iPhone case collection on YouTube for this particular keyword. So obviously all these brands are missing out on something here and should really start doing this. And it's also important to understand the YouTube SEO is really very fundamentally different from traditional SEO. So sometimes we have SEO agencies claiming that they all do this already. Very often when you dig a little bit deeper, you see that they don't understand it at all in reality. YouTube SEO depends on entirely different factors than Google SEO. So things like watch time of all your videos is much more important than links and things like that. And your metadata has to be optimized in very different ways. And that's also something that we offer with our software and our services, optimizing your YouTube videos for ideal SEO results on YouTube. And again, this can really give you amazing results at a very low cost point. So much for ads and SEO.
Yeah, so we actually had a great question come in from Steve here, who's asking about how he can actually put a hyperlink on his own YouTube video that will take folks back to his website. So that's a great question, Steve. We're going to tackle that here right now, as a matter of fact. So let's say that you've been able to put together your content strategy, you've dipped your toe into doing some ads, you've been working on some optimization on your channel, and the next step really is, well, what are the things that I can do to better optimize my channel for getting folks from YouTube back to my website? Well, there are a number of things that you can do, and in fact, most times we see that this isn't done in the optimal way, but let's look at just a few things that you want to make sure that you're making note of here. So first off, obviously playlists, especially once you have a fairly large body of content, it's going to be very important that you neatly organize that into playlists and buckets that make sense for the content that's there. But in doing so, something to keep in mind, you also want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the shoes of your audience here, right? So think about the things that they're going to be looking for, the things that they're definitely going to want to find. You want to make that as easy as possible for them to find that. And playlists may be a good opportunity to segment that out. We'll look at an example of someone not necessarily doing that in an ideal way here in just a moment. Also, there's some really neat tools that are built in to the actual annotations feature. Certainly adding in some annotations to each video so that folks can subscribe or view other content that you have. You can see the example at the top right of the screen there where you can click on that little avatar that pops up and actually subscribe to the channel. Another component I think is really, really important are custom thumbnails. This is a sort of an advanced feature on the channel that does take a few steps to get set up, but oftentimes you'll see that the thumbnails that you'll have for your videos on YouTube may not be ideal. Maybe someone is picking their boogers, or maybe perhaps has a funny look on their face, something like that. Well, obviously you want to optimize that. You can actually pull in custom images that you'd like to use for each video that are going to be much more attractive, much more appealing for, say, when folks see that thumbnail within search results. And the more that you can optimize that and increase the chance that folks will click on it, the better. So let's look at, I know I mentioned just a moment ago an example of someone that perhaps isn't doing this in an ideal way. And Andreas, I think we've got Best Buy pulled up here. We don't love to pick on Best Buy. That's not true.
On the big guys. It's just fair. So biggest electronics retailer.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have a pretty good YouTube channel to start with. So there's this Super Bowl ad. Everybody loves Amy Poehler, so nothing wrong with that. Maybe people don't necessarily care about Super Bowl ads more than a month in, but okay, fair enough, not bad. But then it comes to playlists. So let's say I'm interested in buying a new TV or Windows 8 laptop or something like that, and I want to go to Best Buy's channel here and figure out, okay, what do they have to say about this? Where do I find this? I have no idea. First playlist is TV spots, which frankly I don't really care about as a consumer. Okay, marketing people might care, but I don't. Geek Squad, I don't even know what it is if I'm not frequent Best Buy customer. Technology Solutions, no idea what that supposed to be. Entertainment, okay, I don't want to be entertained, I will buy something. Best Buy Reimagine, okay, this seems to be some corporate stuff I'm not interested in. I don't know where to find product information here, no idea. And I'm probably gone by this point. I just have not found what I was looking for. So if I actually click on some of these playlists here, it turns out that Best Buy actually has great content. And for instance, I click on Technology Solutions, and they have all these very helpful instructional videos, tutorials about how to install a Windows 8 PC and HDTV basics, 3D TV basics, and so on. That's exactly the kind of content that I'm looking for as a consumer, but Best Buy makes it very, very hard to find it in the first place. So again, that's a wasted opportunity, and that's what we frequently see, that people simply don't necessarily optimize their YouTube channels the way they probably should. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's all about making sure that you've taken down those barriers. You make it as easy as possible. If you've got great content like Best Buy has, and you've put all that time and effort and money into setting that up, well, then you want to make it as easy as possible for folks to find it. And you know what? Yeah, that's exactly the same thing. I remember seeing the Best Buy channel and not really being impressed until I really had to actively take those next steps and find that good content that was buried there. So something to think about. Okay. So Steve, to get to your question here, yes, there is a really neat way that you can link folks from the video content, literally from watching a video, back to the website. And this is something that rolled out
relatively recently, just a handful of weeks back, something called associated website annotations on YouTube. Now, there are a few steps that we'll walk through in a moment to get this set up, but the most important component here is that by using the annotations feature, when you've got the external or associated website annotations feature set up, there are a lot of things you want to start thinking about as to how to build these into your strategy. So the first thing that I'll say is that basically how it works is within the video you can add an annotation perhaps over a certain component of the video, maybe over an avatar, something like that. To do that. Also, with regard to the actual channel layout, you do have an opportunity to make some clickable components within that via some custom HTML. Now, you will need a branded channel to do this. You're going to need a sizable ad spend, I believe in the 5 figures per month, right? And to go to
per quarter, exactly.
Per quarter,
so
right?
You need to be an advertiser to get this.
So you're going to need to talk with your ad reps if you are spending that amount of money in AdWords to do so. But if you can, get it set up and make sure you've got a design team to tackle the custom HTML to get that set up. Now, I'd be amiss if I didn't tell you that will be going away over the next handful of months. YouTube will be rolling out a new channel layout that will very likely do away with a lot of the custom HTML that you may have today or maybe wanting to set up. Although you will have that will be optional for a period of time, so you will be able to make good use of that for a period.
Absolutely, but in the example that we show here, Rockenbach is a toy manufacturer of educational toys. Great stuff, by the way, if you have a kid between the ages of 4 and 8, look into this. You see that this is not overly subtle, so there are a lot of places to click here, and that's a mistake that many people make in their YouTube layouts, that they really have these tiny little buttons and nobody can really find them. That's not really what you should do. You should really have very visible buttons so that people can easily find that they can click through to your website. And you should also have these sidebar links to your website, to your store, so that people really have an easy time finding your products.
Right. YouTube traditionally has, designated limited amount of real estate to get folks out of YouTube, and that makes sense. They want folks to stay within the ecosystem. They want folks watching videos, and great, more power to them. But ultimately, as most e-commerce folks will want, they do want to translate that into traffic back to the website, into sales as well. So a few other things that you're going to want to make note of and think about, certainly within the production process when you're putting this stuff together. Storyboard it, script it out, and think about what components you'd like to include to get folks back to your website. So you can see a really nice example here from Tech Bargains. They're talking about and doing, I believe, a review for an HP laptop, and they make very clear where you can get more information, where you can see the products on their website, and certainly make reference to that. Also, a really nice example here on the right side of the page of an end card, where after you view a video, folks have some next steps to take. They can subscribe to the channel, they can go back to the Zag or Origin website that you see here, making sure that at any point when, especially if someone makes it all the way through a video, give them an action to take. Make sure that they have that next step so as to guide them through the funnel and the actions that you'd like them to take that are ideal for you and your particular strategy. Now, one more component here that I want to touch on. There are, as I mentioned before, those abilities to have the annotations actually link back to the website. And again, it's important that you think about this from the perspective of production. So you can see another Rockenbach example here. They have a little avatar that'll pop up in the beginning half of a video that'll just say, hey, check out our website, come click here. And as you can see, the little box that surrounds that avatar that pops up in the bottom left-hand side of the screen there, you can actually click that, and that opens a new tab and brings you to the website. Again, you see a nice example of an end card where they're saying, oh, check out our website. They do have a really neat little first-time buyer offer, which is a great idea to get folks there for the first time, even if they're just doing some watching some content and getting gift ideas. And again, lots of actions for them to take. There traditionally has been a lot of limited real estate, but that's starting to open up. Make good use of these features and start rolling them out. We do have, I know, some questions rolling in as to how to set this up. Some folks may be on YouTube for some time and have never seen this before and want to know how to do it. A few quick steps that I'll run through just briefly. You will need to enable monetization on your YouTube channel. But again, don't fear. That doesn't mean that all your videos are going to have ads running on them. You do have to enable that on a video by video basis in order to make that happen. So don't worry. Also, you will need to make sure that you verify that you're the owner of the website that you're linking to, and the steps are in there within the settings side of YouTube. There's a lot of great resources online how to get this set up. I believe YouTube also has a help section to walk you through this in detail if you run into any issues. But anyone who's using an on YouTube today and doesn't have this set up, especially if you're running an e-commerce site, definitely something that you want to look into and get set up as soon as possible. Cool. So just in summary here and looking at what the things that you can do for your channel to really get more conversions, get more traffic out of your channel. First of all, again, make sure that it's as easy as possible in the way you're setting up your playlist and organizing the content in your channel to surface that great content to people as highly as you can, and make it as easy as possible for them to find that, and to really think from their perspective of what they'd like to find and what they should be finding. Also, again, make sure that you've got multiple links to the website and other pages and landing pages that you want folks to get to from the channel layout, and take good opportunity of the custom HTML while you can, if you can as well. And then obviously we talked about the external or associated website annotations. Make sure that you do some testing with annotations. Make sure that you get the associated website connected and set up. And ultimately, again, make sure that you're encouraging subscriptions. If someone's making it through a video, clicking to the website, they're also a great candidate for being a subscriber to the channel, to get more information, to become a fan. And again, this really adds a lot of value for the SEO value for the channel. Once you have more subscribers, they're going to be coming back. They're going to be spending more time on your site, which is going to help you show up more highly in search results and ultimately benefit your YouTube strategy.
Exactly. It's not always about the immediate conversion. It's sometimes really about relationship building. So let's move on to the next point. Once you get people to click through to your website, what do you do on your site with video? And we have already discussed that having video on an e-commerce site is a really great thing, and it increases your conversion rates according to pretty much any study that you can find out there. Sometimes people are a little bit confused about, okay, how do I use my YouTube content on my e-commerce site? Is that really the right tool to use, and so on? And you hear even people saying, oh, real marketers don't use YouTube players on a website. It looks cheap and it's cheesy branded and so on, and you shouldn't do that. And apparently Coke didn't get that memo. Obviously they're only a small marketer with a very tiny budget, so they're probably using it because it's free. No, I mean seriously, you actually find a lot of the biggest brands in the world with the fattest marketing budgets use YouTube players right on their homepage. This is Coke's current homepage, okay? Prime real estate. And they're using a YouTube player because there are a lot of good reasons for that. First of all, you get a great impact on your YouTube SEO. You engage people on your YouTube platform, of course, and get them to subscribe and so on. And you also benefit from improvements to your Google SEO. Now, frequently heard objection about YouTube players on websites is that it looks like a YouTube player, obviously, and shows all these uncontrollable things at the end, and the YouTube brand and so on. What a few people know is that you actually can customize the YouTube player very heavily. So, for instance, the standard player looks like this. You have these familiar bars at the top and the bottom, of course, we all know that. But you can turn off, for instance, this whole title bar, you can hide the YouTube branding, and you can even turn off all controls. So you barely see that this is a YouTube player at all. You still get all the benefits that we just mentioned without all the downsides that you normally have. And you can do this either yourself by hand. It's relatively complicated. If you're a technical person, you probably can do it with some effort. Or you can use a tool like our software Pixability Caffeine that has a built-in custom video embed generator for YouTube embed codes that help you turn on and off all these various features, and really makes it very easy to customize these embed codes for use of your website. Now, a best practice that we always recommend is to use YouTube videos on pretty much every product page. If you have a video that works on a product page in terms of its content, then put it on your product page, and you'll see why in a second. First of all, it just helps people inform about what this product really is. So Newegg, for instance, one of the biggest online retailers, has very many YouTube videos on product pages, having reviews, explanation videos, and so on of these products. Increases your conversion rates, and again, it also benefits your YouTube SEO rankings because you're ramping up more views, more watch time on your SEO, on your YouTube channel, with these embedded videos, and that's very good for getting found on YouTube in the first place. What few people know is that it also benefits your Google rankings on Google proper. And Google has actually last year started to prioritize pages that have YouTube videos embedded very highly in conventional search. And here's one result from one of our customers. Vertex is a specialty apparel brand. And one of their most popular products is a cold black polo. Cold black is a type of fabric. And they actually, as a tiny brand with a small marketing budget, beat out people like Under Armour and Amazon.com for the same keyword in organic Google search. That's the kind of result that you can get. And the only difference is really having an embedded YouTube video. We actually A/B tested this for several of our clients, and it's really consistent. If you embed a YouTube video on your product page, you're going to see a huge benefit in terms of your Google search rank. So definitely highly recommended to do that.
Absolutely. Oh, great. Well, so maybe you've done all of these things, or maybe you've just started. And as everyone knows, ultimately, if you can't properly measure what you're doing, it's tough to know what to do next, where to place those eggs in which basket, and what to prioritize. So let's look at a few things that you can do to measure your success. Now, I'm going to go through this here over the next handful of minutes, and I just want to remind everyone we will be taking questions here at the end of the webinar. So get your questions in at Pixability on Twitter or webinar@pixability.com. Okay, very cool. So a couple of things that, again, that you want to make sure that you're monitoring. First of all, make sure that you're using Google Analytics. It's a fantastic analytical platform. If you're using another platform, that's cool too, but make sure that you've got it. You have to know what's going on your website to know what's working for you. Simply put, must have it. Secondary, if you are running an ad campaign, and specifically, and especially if you're running an AdWords for video campaign, make sure that you're utilizing conversion codes on your website. You know, one of the biggest challenges to e-commerce sites is making sure that you're tracking and attributing the revenue that you're generating through your various marketing campaigns, and the conversion codes that you're able to get from AdWords will track that a bit more accurately than analytics is able to. And again, one big thing there, make sure if you can, send back that purchase amount in the conversion code so you can track the dollar amounts, you know your average order value, you know what's working. Lastly, make sure that you're using a link shortener as well. Bitly is one that works very well. We see folks use. We do have one that's built into our software, Pixability Caffeine, as well. Ultimately, that's going to help with a couple of things, but making sure that you're tracking the links, that your URLs are nice and pretty and short, and then also that you have sort of a secondary gauge for measuring clicks as well, and making sure you have a secondary source on that. Okay, cool. So moving forward, there are some metrics that you're going to want to follow. And again, we come back to the funnel, which is very important and does really drive how we view these strategies. In terms of the metrics that you want to watch for, once you have these tools in place, towards the top of the funnel, make sure you're watching what your views are like and what your watch times are like. Make sure that you understand the types of content that are working for you and perhaps some types of content that aren't. Where are people dropping off in the videos? Where are they really watching them all the way through, and what are those characteristics? Make sure that you understand, if you're running the ad campaign, how many views you're getting and what the cost per view is and what you're really willing to live with. Understand your audience. And this, I've seen it from a couple different capacities. Sometimes this is the audience that I wanted to hit. Great, perfect, exactly. This is exactly what I wanted. Other times it's, wow, I didn't know that I had this audience out there that I should be targeting. Maybe I wasn't before. And YouTube's a great way to monitor that and watch that. Now, towards the middle of the funnel, certainly you want to watch for your click-through rates and also for the traffic coming from YouTube back to the website. What's the engagement like? Are certain videos driving better visits than others? And what's the difference? Did you touch on a certain type of content for one video that makes folks stay on the site for a minute and a half, and maybe testimonials only last 30, 45 seconds? You want to make sure that you're aware of that. You want to make sure that for the folks that are making to the site and engaging, what drove them there, what's driving that interaction. And then lastly, for the bottom of the funnel, certainly you want to be monitoring the sales that you can directly attribute to YouTube clicks. But perhaps most importantly, I think one big challenge here is those conversions that happen perhaps indirectly from YouTube as well. So that the more advanced features and advanced users of analytics will know of multi-channel funnels and conversions. Certainly you want to be monitoring your assisted conversions as well. As a quick anecdote, maybe someone watches a YouTube ad, goes to your website, maybe they go home, maybe they watched that ad and went to your website at work and they took their laptop home. pulled up your URL directly, and then made a purchase from home. Well, you definitely want to be able to attribute part of that conversion to that initial YouTube ad view. What would be really a terrible thing to have happen would be to say, well, I'm not getting any conversions from YouTube because I can't see that direct conversion. Well, whereas it may in fact be helping drive a lot of assisted conversions by giving people good content, giving them good information to actually become a good customer of yours.